Hey guys, sorry about the sad music. I had no idea what music was coming in that. I don't have my countdown on this computer, so I just went to one that was inside YouTube, and I figured I'd go with one with music, but it was pretty funereal in that music. I'll have to link to so I can come up and tell my mean girl Karen story. Oh, does that mean you want to come on the air and tell your story, Lisa? You can get in touch with me and let me know what you're thinking. Um, Britt, you're right, and I do want to put this up there though, because this is just a quick impromptu show. I do want to talk about the cancer history only because it's ridiculous how many people want to keep saying that I faked this, and I don't really care what turtle riders or pink shirts think. I don't care. Okay, Lisa, you got my email, right? So let me give you my email. And just give me an idea, Lisa, what it is you want to talk about, because I have to be careful. Because I have seen you talk about this before, and I've given the email before, and you haven't reached out to me. So maybe we somehow misconnected. But all right. Anyways, the reason I have to say it is because, unfortunately, this is the way smears work. Is that a lot of people through this case that are on my side, not that I have a side, but on the same side of the discussion on the Free Karen Reed stuff, they didn't know me before this case. So there's always that party of mine that says, I wonder if there's some truth to these smears. Is there some truth to this? So I've now had even people who I consider friends that I like, that I've worked with, that have reached out to me and said, so what's the deal with your cancer, basically, and that kind of thing. I feel good, so I don't want any sympathy. I just want people to understand the truth, because the truth matters. And I've never tried to raise money off this, and I'll talk about that too. But I want to show you, it's important to me, just for the record, since so many people think that I'm actually would have the audacity to make up having cancer. So I'm going to bring you in. This is my patient portal for Mass General Hospital in Brigham. And I'm going to log in. So you see my login there. You can't see the password. Okay, this shows my scans that are coming up on August 10th. Lists some of my doctors here. You can see up in, I guess I can't make it bigger, but you can see up in the right corner my photo. It's very small, so you can't really see it from here, but that's my photo. So let's just go into test results. And I'm going to go back to, I got to go way back for when this first began. I was not a patient of Mass General Hospital before this. All right, so this is where it begins. So just to give you an idea of what I went through. So I started out in 2017. I had minor pain in my left hand. And over a period of months, it spread to my elbow. And I thought it was tennis elbow. I bought gadgets to try to work it out. I kept trying different things. And over a period of more months, it eventually became pain in my back, in my legs, and a little bit also in my right arm. And then eventually it became crippling pain, like to the point where like jump off the bridge pain. And I went into to see a neck doctor. And I remember the day I went in there, I first got in, I was like, listen, doctor, I'm not someone to say this lightly, but if you don't do something for me right now, I'll be off the bridge within a couple of days, because that's how bad the pain was. And but he was able to give me a cortisone shot in the neck and a couple of different things. So what he thought it was, and we all thought it might have been some kind of a disc problem that was pinching on the nerve. And so I began the process of going through scans. And then I get a call. So this was, I think, in early September. So this would have been 2018. I get a call saying from the doctor's office. Now I was due to go to get the results in about a week, but the doctor's office called and said, the doctor wants you to come in right away. And so that's usually not, I've never had that kind of a call before, but you can imagine, that's probably not good news. So I went in, and the doctor is a neck doctor. He was a relatively young guy. I kid you not. He was trembling. And he actually had, story of my life, powder on one nostril. So I guess he had to get juiced up just to tell me this. He told me he never had to tell any patient this, but he told me, that the scans had picked up, even though the scans were just for basically the upper chest and up, that they picked up numerous lesions indicating spreading cancer. And I remember he said, "So you seem to be taking this pretty well." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm just trying to process it and decide how to tell my family and stuff like that." And he said, he slid over his chair and he started telling me the Kubler-Ross points of grief. What is it? Those, I forget what they are, like the 10 points of grief or the 11 points of grief, the stages of grief. And I was like, "Whoa, easy. I'm not ready to go that far yet. I want to fight, you know?" So began the process. So initially, my primary care scheduled me for Dana-Farber in Methuen, Massachusetts. So I began getting scans there. So the thing was to find out exactly what kind of cancer you have. And initially they gave me bone scans, and the bone scans, was very numerous lesions on my spine, on my pelvis, on my ribs, things like that. So, but he still didn't know what the primary cancer was. So the doctor in Methuen was very cold, and my sister and my brother were there with me. And so the decision was made to switch to Mass General Hospital. So you look at these scans here. So initially, because we didn't know what type of cancer I had, I began with a Dr. Lin, who ended up, but he does a different type of cancer than what I had. But so they schedule the, I forget what that test is called. I only had it once back then. It's not quite, it's more, maybe you guys, it's listed here as CAT scan, but it's a more involved CAT scan than that. So let's see what the results were. And this is, let's do the chest one, I think is the main. All right, so we'll skip down to the conclusions. All right, so we'll skip to the impression, which is the conclusions. Right upper lobe mass and multiple right parahilar masses, confluent right hilar lymphadenopathy, along with bulky subcarinal right paratracheal. I don't know what any of this stuff means. Anterior mediastinal right internal mammary, left prevascular, and left hilar lymphadenopathy, concerning for metastatic lung adenocarcinoma. So for Jen Altman, Turtle Boy's capo, and who Karen Reed calls her pit bull, who continues to spout out there that I am faking lung cancer and that she herself used to work with lung cancer patients, and so she knows all about it. The pit bull knows all about lung cancer. There it is right there. Metastatic lung adenocarcinoma. Right upper and middle lobe pulmonary arteries are encased and severely narrowed by the parahilar masses lymphadenopathy. So that's basically cancer cells that are loose, that are spreading into your lymph nodes and into your pulmonary arteries. And so when you look at the scans, that kind of loose cancer cells, it lights up because they treat it with a dye that makes it light up. Because cancer cells absorb sugar. Cancer cells crave sugar. So when they put this dye into your body that's loaded with sugar, and then they scan you, 10 minutes later, it's the cancer cells, because they absorb it, they light up. And so that's how they can spot the cancer. Numerous osteoblastic lesions, some with destruction of cortex and associated soft tissue components, most noticeably at the T5 vertebral body level, for which MRI of the thoracic spine is recommended for further evaluation of mass effect on the adjacent spinal canal. Diffuse ground glass nodules and solid nodules involving all lobes of the lung, concerning for diffuse metastatic disease. So this was just of the lungs. I'm not going to go over all the stuff, but they scanned your brain, and they did find stuff there, and not much of a brain, obviously, but they found some other stuff. Cancer spreading through both lungs. metastatic cancer, which means it's spreading. Appearance of, and if it's spread to other organs, that's what stage 4 is by definition. If it spreads to other parts of the body, that's stage 4. And stage 4 is by definition terminal, but as we'll see, I'm still here a long time later. So it's terminal can take a long time, and who knows? I mean, the science is making great advances. Appearance and cystic change raises possibility of concurrent Langerhans cell histiocytosis. I don't know what that is. Superimposed infection cannot be excluded. There was no infection. Mild cardiomegaly and coronary atherosclerosis. And I remember asking the doctor if that was like normal atherosclerosis from aging, and he said no, that's cancer cells. Enlarged main pulp, because that in the other arteries, that atherosclerosis is not there. It's only there in the pulmonary artery because that's the lung artery. And so it's the cancer cells, the metastatic cells are spreading through your body and they filled up the artery. Maybe seen in association with pulmonary hypertension. So, I mean, I hate to put everybody through this, but that's what it was. And again, this, you can see my picture. Hopefully this is clear enough. You can't quite see it because that little logo thing is, oh yeah, you can still see it right there. So that's my picture right there. Even though it's very small, you can see it. It's not, there's no way I could fake this. I've logged in live for everybody to see it. So Jen Altman, if you're watching this, apologize. Have the decency. You don't have to say you like me. I don't like you, but I don't accuse you of false things. And this is what you do. And this is why you are a turtle rider. This is why your crowd, your mob is what it is. So the other thing that she's been doing is going out and saying that I gave young women, underage women, roofies and brought them up above my bar. She's making it up. There was a bar in the 90s called Walshy's on Main. I had no connection to that bar. No connection at all. Was 2 miles from my bar. And I didn't even own a bar at that point. I was the manager of another bar. And in Walshy's on Main, there was, I don't remember the story. It was shut down because of this. It was the popular bar in Worcester at the time. Mike Walsh, who I didn't know at the time, I did meet him later, but he was not guilty of anything. And Mike recently passed. But I never had his number, had a beer with him or anything. I think I played softball against him a few times. That's it. He seemed like a nice guy, to tell you the truth, but I don't really know him. And at the time, I didn't know him at all. But he was a really popular, good-looking kid from Worcester. So when he opened a bar, it was instantly popular. And it was I've never owned a bar in downtown Worcester. That's where his bar was. And it was the place to be for months or something like that, maybe a year before this happened. This was an employee of his who had been kind of a celebrity because he had been on some reality, like some MTV reality show. And so this guy was a popular, good-looking kid, but for whatever reason, he was having girls stay after hours, putting roofies in their drinks, leading them to an upstairs office, and then molesting them. Now, it had nothing to do with Mike Walsh, the owner, but it definitely had nothing to do with me. I had no connection to that establishment at all. Nothing in common. But that doesn't stop people from like Jen Altman, the pit bull, who really is, she got mad when I said that the things that you do are monstrous. That is monstrous, to spread false stories about people. And what they do, listen, it's not like they invented spreading false stories about people on the internet or in social media. They didn't. It goes on. But they do it in a very organized, concerted way. And it's who they are. So again, I'm going to close this soon, but if you can see it, so that test there was from October 22nd in 2018. So in October of on October 22nd of 2018, I was finally diagnosed as having stage 4 lung cancer. It was ultimately determined to be non-small cell lung cancer. And so that'll be 6 years ago in a couple months. pretty miraculous to survive. And you can see just from that report there how widely spread it was. And that was just the lungs, but there was also 3 metastatic lesions in the brain, also in the hips, in the femur head, all kinds of places that it was. And no, I've not been cured of it, but I was fortunate in that this particular, the biomarker, you go through a biopsy, and the biopsy tries to determine what the genetic nature is of your cancer. So cancer is a bunch of mutations that come together in a way to create this living organism that's made of your own cells, but that is now diseased, but is able to defend off the immune system from being destroyed, as normally the immune system would destroy any kind of malfunctioning cells. And cancer, if almost like a independent living thing, evolves all kinds of abilities to spread, to send out colonies to other parts of the body when it gets metastatic, and things like that. Well, the particular mutation for mine was, whatever this means, exon deletion 19. I don't really know what that means, but that's the genetic marker for it. Now, that very certain particular type of cancer, type of lung cancer, is that, and a few other different types of cancers, very few are able to be treated by what's called a targeted therapy. And basically, my understanding of it, and I'm not a doctor, is that this very specific medicine is designed that stops one particular pathway molecule that the cancer needs in order to continue to grow. So I think it's called, I think in mine, the enzyme or the molecule within me is called tyrokinase. And so this inhibits the tyrokinase. And what that has the effect of, it makes it so that the cancer can no longer grow. It doesn't destroy the cancer. It just makes it so that it can't grow. It generally works for about 18 months before, that's what the average is, about 18 months before the cancer adapts to the medicine and the medicine no longer works. And then the cancer begins to what's called progress again. So that's progression. So 18 months is an average. So that means some people get only 6 months before it begins to progress. But I've been extremely lucky, and I've now had almost 6 years. I did actually go into progression last February. So it's on. Yes, I've been very lucky, but it's not that rare that it's not like I won the lottery. So I happen to have a very good friend who just coincidentally was diagnosed with lung cancer about 2 months before me. So he would be in August. So he was 6 months ago this month. And he also is still alive. And he just as the weirdness of coincidence, he had the exact same mutation. So he's on the exact same targeted therapy as me. But he has been in a more full progression for some time. So I haven't talked to him for a few weeks. He was due to go get another biopsy to find out if they can learn if there might be some new genetic marker driving this that can be treated. Hopefully there is. But, generally once you get into progression, it's not something that can be stopped. But, again, hopefully it can be slowed and you can buy enough time to get to the point where they will come up with something new, because they slowly, but they are making advances, So, in my case, the progression that I had was in February, and it was limited to one spot. So I was lucky in that regard, and it was treated with a week's worth of radiation treatments. And then I went for my next scans in May, and to my surprise anyways, it was stable. So now I got my next scans in a couple of weeks. Hopefully it'll continue to be stable for a period, and hopefully that'll get me to the next period where the next breakthrough in the medicine. They are working on different things. It just takes a long time. And I think COVID slowed things down on that too, even though it may have helped expand our knowledge on certain types of research. But for the most part, it's what it did was it had the effect of slowing clinical trials because it was unsafe to bring patients into hospitals. So it generally had a very bad effect in slowing this down. But this stuff takes years anyways. And even as they make a discovery, it takes many years to get it to the level where they're able to use it in a clinical trial. And then it also takes, and then from there, it takes years before it's approved by the FDA. So my medicine, the one that I am on, was actually approved only 6 months before I began getting treated for it in 2018. So I've just literally been one step ahead of the devil. I remember when I started the treatment, as soon as I did, I'm aggressive about trying to fight things. So I went literally like the day after I began this medicine, I went to the gym and I started going to the gym. And then like a week later, I went to my doctor and they were trying to test to see if I was reacting well to the medicine. And he said, I asked him, can I go to the gym? And he says, oh, no, it's too dangerous. He goes, you can maybe walk to the end of the driveway. So that just gives you an idea where it was back then. But I didn't tell him that I was going to the gym, but I kept going to the gym, but I had to take it slow. I was doing push-ups at home and I began just doing one push-up. That's all I could do. But after a couple months, I got up to where I could do about 30 push-ups. So, I don't know if it helps, but I think you try to fight things and that's, in the end of the day, it's probably just more luck than anything. But I've always taken the approach of trying to fight things. I've tried to keep busy since then. I launched websites. As you know, I launched YouTube channels. And I just stay busy. I've written books. I've written screenplays. I've had screenplays sell. I've done screenplays go on to be a quarterfinalist in a competition that's run by the Oscars people. So I was contacted by a bunch of good companies. Unfortunately, haven't heard back, and they haven't chose to make it. But including companies that are owned by Mark Wahlberg and another company that's associated with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. So they were interested in the script, but at the end, they apparently decided it wasn't for them. But so I keep busy, and does that play a role in my being able to survive this long? Who knows, right? But it definitely, what it does do, it makes life more fulfilling every day. And so people might also say, why have I spent so much time on this Karen Reed case? And obviously I didn't plan to. And I would say that for much of it, it's not fun. But I don't know. I feel like in the early days, and it's last fall and last summer when I first started concluding here that these people were innocent, that are being falsely accused, it seemed like nobody else was out there helping them. I had not talked to them, but it just seemed like in the world of content creation and media coverage, nobody was covering the truth. Nobody was pursuing the truth. Now, obviously, we now know, and I maybe had a little sense of it back then, but someone was truly pursuing it in a very rigorous and effective way, and that was Kate Peter. She can explain her own story to you, and I'm sure she has. Thank you, Scott. No, please, and thank you, guys. I very much appreciate it. Let's not do any donations today, because then it really looks like I'm trying to grift. But I thank you very much, and I appreciate it. But this is not about making money at all. I just wanted people to trust that I'm not making something up. No, but Scott, so I really do appreciate it. But let's just let Scott's be the only donation today, because this is not about donations at all. And this is about trying to pursue the right thing. And so I don't know the families involved. I've never spoken to the McCabe's. The only Albert I've spoken is to Chris Albert. So I've never met any of them in person. I'm not from that area. And if word got back to me tomorrow that those people don't like me, they can't stand me, it wouldn't change my argument. It wouldn't change what I'm doing. I don't have any police in my family. I'm not connected to any of the state troopers. I've over time developed sources that know some state troopers, but that's it. And the evidence that I've used to make my analysis comes from the documents and from the hearings and now from the trial. That's it. But what motivates me, I pursue it just because, for the same as I did back then, it seems like there are not that many people. There's such an imbalance. There's so many more people that are not interested in the truth and really just want to grift on this. So I think maybe tomorrow I'll do this, have a little more fun with Young Jelly himself. So he did a reaction video to me last night, and it was very entertaining. He actually reacted to my talking about, I had showed a clip from his interview with retired Canton police officer Peter Murphy. And Peter Murphy, and so somebody had messaged me too. Somebody had commented today in a video, and they said, Kev, could you maybe do this without insulting people? That would be nice. And I totally respect the sentiment. And usually I do. But the part of covering this does require, it really does demand that we kind of insult some of these people. It's a fine thing. So if you and I have a difference on politics or on sports or on history or on a particular policy, I don't care what it is, abortion, whatever, there should be a respectful way to argue that. Or we might have a respectful opinion on a respectful disagreement on a particular crime case, right? And so I 100% believe in the idea of good people, if they're interested in the truth, being able to disagree. But the problem is these people aren't interested in the truth. So I went back after I looked today on Young Jelly's channel. And see, I don't follow his channel. And I don't really follow really any podcast except I might see a clip on Twitter or somebody might send me a clip. I just don't really find it, I don't find any of those shows interesting. But Young Jelly there was back, I don't know, early January when Turtle Boy was in jail. And he went silent for a few weeks. And everybody is, where's Mike? Where's Mike Crawford? What's going on with Mike? And then he announced, so all of a sudden one day I got up and I got a friend request on Facebook from Young Jelly, Mike Crawford. And I was like, oh, okay, well, what's going on? And then I found later on that he was planning to do a show where he was going to announce a new approach to the Karen Reed case. And so for the first time, I went to one of his live shows and I saw it from the beginning. And while I was there, all the Turtle writers were in chat. Not Turtle himself, because Turtle was in jail. But all the Turtle writers were there. All the pink shirts. We now know them as pink shirts. They weren't known as that then. They were all there. And as soon as Mike, what he did, and he actually did a good job saying it, he said, look, I want to basically take a new approach here. He goes, he said, I've been covering this case in a one-sided way since I've been covering it, which was since last summer. He goes, and I don't want to do that anymore. I am going to now promise to cover this in a both sides kind of way, right up until the trial. I'm going to look at evidence in a more objective way, which was an admission that he had not been doing that, which he wasn't at all. And none of them are. The Glarer, LTL, certainly not Turtle Boy, Dylan, whatever that guy's channel is. I mean, Brian LTL. I mean, none of these guys, Melanie Little, Brandy Churchwell, none of these people ever ask a question of the other side, or they never apply a skeptical question to the defense theory, the wild defense Turtle Boy theory. They're afraid to tick off that mob. And so in that show, Mike Crawford said, from now on, I'm going to ask both sides kind of questions. Now, apparently in those couple weeks, somebody scared him. And he's talked about this a little bit on Facebook with me. He didn't get into details, but he said people connected to whatever. I don't know. He thinks they're connected to the state troopers. I don't know. Called him up and said, you better stop covering it this way. So as a result, he came out and said, I'm going to cover this in a both sides kind of way. And while he was doing that, he said, and I apologize to Kevin, because I've been very, I guess I've been kind of saying some nasty things about him, and I shouldn't have been. He goes, the one thing that I would disagree with Kevin on is that he talked about a mindless mob, and he shouldn't have said that. As he was saying it, he looked down, and the mindless mob was there in his chat, attacking him. They were attacking him for the same reason they attacked me. When they first attacked me, it's because I was trying to cover this from both sides. And Aiden came into my chat, and he accused me of both sidesism, as if that's a bad thing. But to his mindless mob, it is a bad thing. You're not supposed to ask questions. You're supposed to just cover things in a one-sided way. You're not supposed to question him ever, because he's daddy, right? And so Mike Crawford was daring. He didn't question anything in that episode. He said, I'm going to, from now on, begin doing that. And the crowd went after him. And he looked down and he's like, oh, he said something like, you guys are crazy. And I remember I commented, welcome to the mindless mob, Mike. That's what they are. But a couple of days later, Turtle Boy, through his blog, reached out from jail. And he basically said there will be no more wavering. No more wavering will be tolerated. And he was basically sending a message, I would say, to Dave McGrath, but to anybody else who was thinking about jumping ship. And he mentioned Mike Crawford, and he wasn't happy about that. Well, whatever happened to whatever, I don't know if they managed to get through to Mike in some other way, but they scared the crap out of him, and he never did it again. Well, interestingly, tonight, I went on and I wanted to maybe consider showing you guys that episode when he talked so reasonably about covering things from both sides. So I was going to play a clip from it. And I went back and I looked, it's gone. Little Jelly deleted it. The one time that he was reasonable and promised to cover something in a both sides kind of way, he deleted that. That little spineless coward deleted that. Stunning. He didn't even want a record of him promising to cover things in an objective way, God forbid. So he deleted it. Now, yesterday when I was talking about, a couple of days ago, about Mike, he had Peter Murphy, retired Peter Murphy, on the channel, and we'll play this for you tomorrow, maybe, or next time I'm on. But Peter Murphy, I had played it that night, claimed that the Secret Service, a contact that he has in the Secret Service, had given him a heads up that there was going to be a big incident. Some big thing was going to happen in downtown Canton. And lo and behold, it happened. The Secret Service, working with the heroic Peter Murphy. Why? Because this is how crazy this stuff is, right? And what was the incident? Well, Turtle Boy shows up with his new paramour, and he ends up going into the waterfall. No, I'm sorry, into CJ McCarthy's, which is where Karen and John started out drinking that night. John started out drinking with friends, and then Karen met him there. This is right next door to Chris Albert's D&E Pizza. Now, CJ McCarthy's, they should never, how they allowed Turtle Boy to dine in their establishment or to drink in their establishment, to me, is unforgivable. I will never go in that place, because it's not that I expect them to have a position on the case necessarily, but what kind of people? D&E Pizza is a fellow business from next door. You're in the same neighborhood. And they're being hounded out of existence by this pink mob every day, tossing stuff in the store and shouting stuff and calling in fake orders. They should never have let the ringleader behind that mob dine in that place. I'll never respect them. I have no idea if the owner of was there. I have no idea if the owner has a good relationship with Chris or a bad relationship. It doesn't matter. You stick together. You have a bunch of businesses together downtown or in an area. You need to stick together. That's loyalty. That's how survival works. Whether you get along with them or not, you have to stick together. And I have talked to Chris enough to know that Chris would do that for them. Now, I have no idea how he feels about that particular situation, so I don't know. And like I said, maybe the owner wasn't there, but just no excuse for letting Turtle Boy dine in that place. No, he doesn't have a right to dine in that place. If I owned a bar, trust me, Turtle Boy would be tossed out, and I have every right to do it. It's a private business. You have the right to toss a piece of shit out of your place. He would be out. Jelly, I'd let stay just for entertainment, but I'd have to probably get an aquarium to stick him in, keep him happy, because he is a jellyfish. But we could maybe do it. So Turtle Boy, when they were leaving with his paramour, CJ McCarthy's, it looks like, if I'm understanding this right, Colin Albert was leaving D&E Pizza. And unfortunately, the way Colin has to live in his own town now, because of this ruthless, mindless mob, is even in the middle of the summer, he has to go around hooded. But Turtle Boy recognized him and started filming him. And I don't know exactly how the sequence happened or how long it took, but when this happened, Colin's aunt, Jill Daniels, very naturally was defensive of her nephew and stormed over angry and knocked Turtle Boy's phone out of his hand. This is the instant. So Peter Murphy goes on the ever credulous Young Jelly show and says, see, this is the big incident that I was tipped off on. And the police took 20 minutes to come. It's all very suspicious. This is madness. And my information is no, the police took minutes to come. But regardless, you think that there's some kind of conspiracy here involving Jill Daniels and the Secret Service? What, the Secret Service, they can't protect Trump, but they're protecting Turtle Boy? Is that what you believe, Peter Murphy? This is madness. You can't really just not insult these people is wrong. You have to insult it because it's literally madness. It's something beyond stupidity. Madness is beyond stupidity. Madness is when you are so divorced from reality. And now, if someone wants to run a show and they're going to be a little bit mad and say deranged things, and they believe that the Queen of England is in reality a lizard woman, okay, fine. It's all just harmless entertainment, right? But this is not harmless stuff because you're sweeping up thousands of people into a crazy conspiracy and accusing innocent people of being part of a crime, being part of murder. And it bothers, it should be alarming to anybody in the public that thousands of people look at that and just mindlessly nod and say, oh, yes, the Secret Service knew that Jill was going to attack Turtle Boy. Or in Peter Murphy's words, assault Turtle Boy. An 85-year-old middle-aged woman. She's in her 40s at least, mid-40s, I'd say. She's a small woman. She's assaulting Turtle Boy, who's in his early 40s and seems to be in good shape. Are you kidding me? Turtle Boy, who said he's not afraid of jail and can survive in the yard. He's not afraid of anybody. That's what he said. But he's afraid of Jill Daniels. He's afraid of Kate Peter. And so it's laughable, right? But this young jelly just nodding like, oh, yes. And then just, oh, wow, this is terrible. You're so right, Peter. Right? Thank you so much for informing us of this. So then I make fun of that. And young jelly goes on his show last night to say, oh, I can tell you, I'm a tough guy, basically. I'm a wrestler. I used to wrestle. So I'm a very tough guy. And I'd be afraid of Jill Daniels. She's terrifying. What kind of man goes in public and says something like that? What kind of man does that? What kind of man does that? I'll tell you what kind of man. A jellyfish man. That's what kind of man does that. So that's what he said. And then right after Peter Murphy got off, that weird little lawyer who never says anything intelligent. And again, I know I hate to be insulting, but he really doesn't. Is that Mark Betterow? Kind of a little freak. And he gets on and he says, Mr. Murphy, I want to tell you, you're like Serpico. Serpico is the cop from the New York City cop in the 70s who basically went undercover on his own department to report corruption. And a movie was made about it starring Al Pacino. And he's like, you're like Serpico. You're a hero, Peter Murphy. A hero for what? Peter Murphy has never reported anything that was important here. Everything he's reported is nuts. So the only thing Peter Murphy ever dug up is he went to visit the other offices that he had worked for because he suspected the Karen Reed conspiracy was real. So he went and talked to these old guys to see what they had knew. And he managed to learn from an officer, he's now retired, Officer Brian Wanless, that Brian Wanless also owns an auto body shop. And he learned that Brian Wanless had helped the state police remove Karen's taillight. Aha! Oh my God, that's the conspiracy, right? The conspirators actually co-opted a Canton police officer to help them in their conspiracy. Only the truth was much more mundane. I think it was a couple of days out, it might have been the next day, but it was not even that day. It wasn't even the 29th. It was, and I'm not even sure if it was the next day. It may have been a couple of days later. Okay. 5. It may have been a couple of days later. Where the state police chem team person, I forget her name. It was a woman that testified in trial. She's there. Her job, she's not part of the cars team. So it's not surprising that she would possibly have trouble removing the headlight. She's not an auto mechanic. She's there to look for evidence. She's there to look for DNA and fingerprints and stuff and hairs and stuff like that. So this woman had trouble getting the taillight out. So somebody there said, hey, we got a guy that works for Canton Police that's an auto body guy. He can help you. So under her supervision, Brian Wanless did help take out the taillight. But there's nothing suspicious about it. And this happened long after the main taillight pieces were found at 34 Fairview. That's it. That's all Peter Murphy ever learned of interest in this case. And he totally misdescribed it and totally tried to adopt it into a conspiracy, and it has no business being there. There's nothing suspicious about it. And and by the way, and not only Peter Murphy, but the only thing, literally the only thing that Sean McDonough has ever reported that had any tiny semblance of truth in it was the stuff about Wanless. But again, he misreported all that too. The way they told the story, the vehicle was towed back to the Sally Port, and they were in a hurry to get these pieces over to the crime scene so they can bury them in the snow to be found by the CERT team. And so they forced Brian Wanless to help them take off the taillight as part of their conspiracy. This is what Peter Murphy and Sean McDonough's contribution to the world of true crime is. That's it. That is the only thing. I dare anybody to tell me anything else they ever said that came even remotely true. They've reported, now I don't know about Peter Murphy, but certainly Sean has reported hundreds of things that have no truth to them, something that Aidan Kearney has pointed out himself many times. Now, Karen laid down the law at some point and said, you two make peace because we're all on the same team. But Aidan knows. And he said everything that Sean reports, the guy's got a batting average of 0. I mean, everything he reports, and now he's on to UFOs. But everything he reports is false. Everything. He's on to UFOs and global conspiracies involving George Soros. Yeah. But I'm not supposed to insult that. No, that stuff has to be insulted because these things have real consequences. This guy is building his channel up into tens of thousands of people peddling bullshit. Now, I want to just say back on Young Jelly, and then we'll finish up. Young Jelly is like basically saying, "Oh, Kevin's jealous of me because his channel only has 7,000 subscribers, and I got 7,000 new subscribers just last month alone." So I went back and looked when I was looking for that video today, where he claimed he was going to be objective, but he cowardly deleted it. I went back and looked, and his channel's been around for like 4 years, and maybe we'll look at it tomorrow. But the views on almost all of the videos, I like UFO videos too, Tom, but I like them because I like a good story. So, his views, for 3 years, most of his videos would get 34 views, maybe something might get a couple hundred views. He was getting nothing. And then all of a sudden last summer, he did a free Karen Reed story, and boom, he got thousands of views right there. So so your channel is popular, Mike, not because you're good at what you do. Your channel is popular because anybody, literally anybody here watching right now, if you want to start a YouTube channel and just go out there and start repeating Turtle Boy's nonsense about free Karen Reed, you will be guaranteed thousands of subscribers within weeks. It's guaranteed. Elise Bennett did the same thing. And now she's gone to the other side. And I'm not trying to start an attack on Elise. She's had enough issues. But she was grifting on this last year. She started a new channel, and she was doing a video practically every day. And she just sat there talking about how bad the McAlberts are, right? And how awful this conspiracy is against Karen Reed. And she immediately shot up, even though she had no experience of doing YouTube videos, she immediately shot up to thousands of views for every video. So it's not rocket science. All you have to do is go out there and grift on Turtle's coattails, repeat his nonsense, make him be nice to you, and you will get thousands of views. That's what Mike Crawford did. He did nothing more. He's done nothing more. And there are no shortage of other people that will grift on this, including many lawyers, including FBI agents, possibly, or it's anybody that wants to look. In today's world, a lot of people are trying to get their second career going, retired cops or lawyers or whatever, by starting a YouTube channel. And I encourage that. It's smart, but it's very difficult to get traction. No matter how good you are, I'm not saying I'm good, I'm saying, Tom, you could be a really good lawyer or a really entertaining former cop. And I was watching some of these channels for a while before this too, because I watched some, I don't watch a lot of true crime, but I was for a long time interested, and still somewhat am in these mafia channels. But I watched some of the former police detectives in New York that have mafia guests on, and they struggle they're happy if they can get several hundred views. And some of these channels are pretty good. But if you decide to graft onto any popular conspiracy, you will immediately shoot up thousands and thousands of subscribers. And whatever conspiracy happens to be popular at the moment. Now, there's probably few that are more popular around here than Free Karen Reed at the moment. And that's popular nationally too. But any conspiracy, it's kind of like the Jerry Springer show. The Jerry Springer show learned how to take Jerry Springer. I seem to remember initially trying to be a more serious talk show, but he realized it wasn't really getting the ratings. But to get the ratings, he started going into Crazy Town and creating all those fights on his stage, and it became almost a spoof of itself. But he built a fortune on that. It's not like what he was doing was journalism or good work or anything of any value to society. It's just entertainment, and that's all this is people that are willing to be entertained at other people's expense. They're willing to look and scream McAlberts and throw ducks in their store and Chris's store and harass people. It's evil. Now, I'm not a religious person, so when I say evil, it's not with some kind of capital E, but it's truly evil what these people do. And even if some of them might be nice on other sides and nice to their family, if you're participating in that stuff, what you're doing is evil. For your reasons, for your own weakness or your own need to believe in something or your own entertainment, usually you're exploiting a conspiracy for which there is no evidence to attack innocent people. It's exploitive. It's wrong. And so I am going to continue to insult it. Now, not every show is going to be like that, but when it comes up, yeah. So, for people who don't like conflict on the YouTube channel, there will sometimes be some conflict on my channel because I am going to go after those people. And I don't care if there's 10 people watching me or 100 people watching me. It really doesn't matter to me because it's the truth. And the truth and the right thing to do can't be driven by numbers. Okay, guys. And just again, thank you very much, Scott, for the donation. I appreciate it. And thank you, everybody else, for not doing the donations tonight when I asked, because I appreciate that too, because we're not doing this for money. And so I'll see you all again soon. And Tom, I'll be seeing in person next week. So looking forward to having some beers with my friend Tom Fleming. So thank you, guys. I appreciate you for being here, and we'll talk soon.